Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
This One's Wife, an orchestrated reality show. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This One's Wife regularly engages in what is known as pretzel logic. This is something which is inconsistent, illogical. It simply does not stand up to scrutiny. The logic is twisted round and round like the shape of a pretzel. It makes sense in the world of the narcissist, remember, because the narcissist is viewing this response through the lens of their narcissistic perspective. It is a toxic logic that the narcissist uses. For the unaware narcissist, this is done instinctively. There's no laughing behind the sleeve of, I know this doesn't make any sense, but I'll say it anyway because it confounds and confuses everybody. The narcissist is earnest in their application of this supposed logic. They believe it makes perfect sense, and if you can't understand it, there's something wrong with you. You're stupid. You're arrogant. You're dim-witted. This One's Wife often engages in this particular form of pretzel logic. She behaves in a particular way. Let's call that behavior X. Later, this One's Wife then criticizes another, saying that that person or circumstance caused behavior X. Thus, she denies that it is behavior X. Someone else made it appear like behavior X, and therefore it's not her fault. It's someone else or something's fault. What this One's Wife is actually doing, and this shows the pretzel nature of this logic, is she's actually confirming that her own behaviour was indeed behaviour X, but she's so deluded she doesn't see it. She does not see that it was behaviour X and blames someone else, saying they created behaviour X. It wasn't behaviour X, even though, of course, everybody else can see that it is. Now, you might think to yourself, you're now going to go and obtain a wet towel to wrap around your head and have a lie down as you try to get your own mind around this peculiar logic of this One's Wife. Well, to assist you in understanding the way that she utilizes this pretzel logic, we have a real-life example of it. This occurs as a consequence of recent reporting in relation to an event that took place some time ago. The article appears in the Telegraph newspaper, and it relates to when this One's Wife took part in the engagement interview with Prince Harry and a Radio 4 presenter. You will recall that engagement interview. For many, it was the moment that they saw that something wasn't right about this One's Wife. The answers that she gave, the responses, the activity that she engaged in, the behaviours that she exhibited, pointed to there being something not quite right about this individual. I've scrutinised the engagement interview and given you a blow-by-blow dissection of it, and you can find it amongst my many videos by searching for the engagement video, the engagement analysis, and that will help you understand more about her behaviours. But what is it that she's done now in relation to something that took place nearly 7 years ago? Well, Victoria Ward writes, Michal Hussain, the BBC Radio 4 presenter, has admitted she was taken aback by the Duchess of Sussex's claim that their engagement interview was an orchestrated reality show. This One's Wife used the Netflix documentary, Harry and This One's Wife, to criticise sharply the way in which the interview in November 2017 was conducted, claiming it was rehearsed and that they were not allowed to tell their story. So let's pause there for a moment. You have an event that took place in November 2017. This One's Wife, in 2022, claims that the engagement interview was an orchestrated reality show, which in fact it was, because her behaviour, as it always is when she's engaging with other people, is performative. It isn't genuine. It's there to achieve an ulterior motive, namely the prime aims. Thus what you have is her saying, oh, they made it like an orchestrated reality show and I wasn't allowed to tell my own story. Yet, she's denying the very existence of what it actually was, which it was an orchestrated reality show, and she was allowed to tell the story because it was an interview where she and Harry were able to talk about their romance and their engagement. Thus, what has she done? She behaves in a particular way, i.e., although she doesn't see it, she creates this orchestrated reality show when she's interviewed with Harry in relation to their engagement. She then denies that's what actually took place, even though we can see that that's the case, and she then blames the presenter or BBC Radio 4, saying, you made it like an orchestrated reality show, therefore it's not my fault, it's your fault. Anybody looking at it would say, well, actually, you've called it correctly, because it was an orchestrated reality show, but of course you can't see that, and you use that as a complaint. Thus, This One's Wife, in the docu-series, brought up the past, the engagement interview, claimed that it was an orchestrated reality show. Thus, in the docu-series, she brings up the past and does so in a way to blame shift. But now, the presenter and the interviewer expresses her astonishment at the response of This One's Wife. Michelle Hussein told Saga magazine, when the Duchess of Sussex said that my engagement interview with her and Harry was an orchestrated reality show, I did not know what to make of it. They seem to have thought through what their new lives would be like and what marriage would mean for her life in particular. She added that there was no hint of the trouble to come. There was nothing that pointed to what would happen, Ms. Hussein said. It was two people who were full of joy in each other and life. The Sussexes gave the interview shortly after their engagement was announced, following in the footsteps of the now Prince and Princess of Wales, who were interviewed on their engagement by ITV's Tom Bradby in November 2010. It was organised by the Kensington Palace Press Office. The couple appeared happy and relaxed as they sat together on a sofa and spoke about how the stars were aligned, magical thinking, when they met, and how Harry proposed during a cosy night in as he cooked a roast chicken dinner. They also spoke of how the now Prince and Princess of Wales had been amazing and wonderful. Flattery. However, in the third episode of the Sussexes Netflix documentary, streamed in December 2022, This One's Wife branded it an orchestrated reality show and said the interview was, rehearsed. The interview took place after their engagement photo shoot in Kensington Palace's Sunken Gardens. This One's Wife said, we went right inside, took the coat off, sat down and did the interview. It was all in that same moment. The couple were asked by the documentary's makers whether they were prepped with questions they might be asked. The Duchess replied, yeah, but then also and then there'll be a moment when they'll ask to see the ring. She added, my point is, we weren't allowed to tell our story because they didn't want. Harry interjected, we've never been allowed to tell our story, that's the consistency. This One's Wife agreed, laughing, that's true, that is consistent until now. The Netflix interviewer replied, I guess that's why we're here, prompting This One's Wife to agree. The episode included archive footage of the engagement interview, with This One's Wife showing off her ring. Hussein was presenting BBC Radio 4's Today programme at the time that This One's Wife's comments were released, with the BBC's royal correspondent Johnny Diamond asking her about the claims live on air. Her co-presenter, Justin Webb, joked that Hussein was the orchestrator, and laughs could be heard in the studio before the BBC star said, "We know recollections may vary on this particular subject, but my recollection is definitely very much asked to do an interview and do said interview." Accordingly, This One's Wife once again engages in a revision of history and the application of a twisted form of logic to suggest that it was an orchestrated reality show, and that was not actually true, when of course we know that her life is an orchestrated reality show which is designed to pursue the prime aims of control, fuel, character traits and residual benefits. And here, the journalist who conducted the interview is rather taken aback at this assertion from This One's Wife and has finally spoken out about it. It is also interesting to note, of course, that whatever you may think about Hussein, she is a long-standing, substantial broadcaster and journalist, and therefore for her to speak out as she has done so is demonstrative again of the growing body of opinion which criticises This One's Wife. Hitherto, she had remained silent about it, but has now spoken up to criticise the behaviour of This One's Wife. Once again, we see how This One's Wife behaved in a particular way. People could see it. She later denies that was the case, and essentially doles out a revision of history, a pity play, with the application of this pretzel logic to suggest that she wasn't able to tell her story when it quite clearly she was able to do so, even though that was through the lens of that orchestrated reality show. Do other people see this? Well, let's have a quick look below the line. My Goodness writes, "Their truth changes a lot, doesn't it?" David James, I suspect it's not the former goalkeeper, writes, "Grifters." Mummy Bird states, "This One's Wife appears to live in a fantasy world where everything and everybody revolves around her. She is right and everyone else is wrong. People speak, but she hears different words. She has no self-criticism whatsoever and will never ever admit it actually might not be everyone else that's at fault, but has only herself to blame." Very good summary there of precisely the way that This One's Wife functions. Vote Leave states, "A disturbed young man and a wannabe celeb climbing like a rat up a drainpipe. Ah, bliss." James Baker, "It was not meant to be one of their fictional actressy stories. It was meant to be an interview about reality." Shermal Duggins, in a shocking claim, royal expert Tom Bauer has labelled This One's Wife as an agent of poison and remorseless in her hatred. This is the perfect description of This One's Wife by Tom Bauer. JMMM, well, this is raking over some pretty old embers, but basically This One's Wife just speaks in poison lies and has trained her ex-prince to back her up in everything. Fifi McC, I think by now we've all realised that This One's Wife and the truth are strangers. Better to assume that everything she says is a lie until proven otherwise. Shermal Duggins, "She cannot help herself. She's the world's most destructive person, something I don't think that she actually realises." Mrs. S.J. Fawkes, "Seriously, these pair are a continuous embarrassment, moaning about their victimhood. If it's not posting cheap PR photos of themselves, they are constantly suggesting they had to leave." Neil Wareham, "When truth becomes malleable." Not one favourable comment in the comment section, which is over 400 strong in relation to those comments, many calling for people to stop talking about them, whilst others recognising the detachment between This One's Wife and reality. Once again, she does so by exhibiting her pretzel logic, this time causing the interviewer to reject what she had to say and highlighting once again how This One's Wife and the majority perspective of reality are completely disconnected. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.